Everyone. Welcome to the podcast. We have Jacob from Hermetica with us today. Hermetica is building some amazing, Bitcoin related stuff, and we would love it to hear from Jacob himself. Welcome to this podcast, Jacob.
Yeah, nice to be here. Nice to meet everybody.
Awesome. Jacob, before we go in, why don't let us, through your Web3 journey and how it led, to the creation of, Hermetica. What was the
Yeah,
inspiration?
absolutely. So I was in 2015, 16, 17. I was building a business in mainly Africa. It was an eyeglasses business and completely unrelated to crypto or Web3. And that led me to discover Bitcoin through a friend. He introduced me to it. And as soon as I learned about Bitcoin, that was around 2016. I fell in love with it. My background is as a software engineer, so I fell in love with the simplicity and the security and just the idea of a decentralized money system. And I read the white paper and remember the day still, to how you remember the times where you really get something meaningful in your life. I remember that day, and I since that day really I have dropped everything and have devoted myself to studying and building Bitcoin. So in 2016, that took the form of really going deep into the cryptography of Bitcoin, how the network runs, the whole like engineering side, because that is my background and that was what I was fascinated with. And then I started a Bitcoin mining company because I was so fascinated with how Bitcoin mining really works. That led me to the US, where there was really cheap energy, and I built a mining company from the ground up, which was very informational and not very profitable. It's really difficult to make money in mining unless you have really cheap capital or really cheap access to chips. And then after that, I was like, okay, where else can I do things for Bitcoin to make Bitcoin better, to advance its adoption? And that led me to Kraken, the digital assets exchange, where I worked for a while on the security side as well as on corporate development, where we did M&A deals across the whole ecosystem. So we bought NFT companies, we bought DeFi companies, etc., other trading companies. And that led me to experience all of DeFi when it was happening. It was like 2020, 2021. And in the back of my mind, I was always thinking that I want to build something on Bitcoin with Bitcoin. And that experience with DeFi led me to understand that we can actually build a financial system on Bitcoin, right? Back in 2020, 2021, it was on Ethereum mainly. So I left Kraken in 22 and have been devoted to building Bitcoin DeFi since then. That takes the form of Hermetica today. That's my journey through Web3, very Bitcoin focused, and now in the builder seat for the last 3 years.
Amazing. Love the background, and I think the whole story about Bitcoin, on how the end goal of Hermetica is actually providing sort of DeFi and Bitcoin sort of thing. That leads to my next question, Jacob. What was the inspiration for you to build this, sort of a Bitcoin bank and yield and, products around it? How did it, come to a shape where you thought, okay, this is the problem statement and this is the area for Hermetica to, go after?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that ties in back to my experiences I had working and building businesses in Africa. When I was there, I realized I'm originally German, so it's a very different world in Germany. Everything works. The banking system is reliable and trustworthy and works. But in Africa, a lot of the problems stem from the money. A lot of the control is exerted through the money. And so when I learned about Bitcoin and the ability to have a currency that is not controlled by anybody, that is hard, that can't be inflated away, that really resonated deeply. And that really resonates deeply because, in my opinion, it is the best tool we have to achieve global freedom. At the end of the day, if your money is controlled, you're not truly free. And so if we can create a money system that is not controlled and is free, that I think creates a lot of economic prosperity for a lot of people around the world. And that is my main motivation behind building Hermetica and building on Bitcoin. So at Hermetica, our overarching goal is to build a financial system on top of Bitcoin. And the form that it takes now is we have a stablecoin, yield-bearing stablecoin USDH, which is fully backed by Bitcoin, and we couple a spot position on Bitcoin with a short on the futures market. So we lock in the dollar value of Bitcoin, and there's a yield from the funding rate on the futures markets that we pay to our users. That is the first product. We want to build a whole suite of products that cater to folks that want to transact and do their economic activity on top of Bitcoin, because we think it is the soundest financial layer there is. And if we look at the bigger picture, in my opinion, there's really two main crossroads or two main streams where we can go down to. We can go, because everything is becoming digital now. All money is becoming digital. That's, I think, very apparent to everybody. We can either have a very centralized controlled system that is maybe a CBDC, or we can have a system on top of crypto rails, especially Bitcoin. And so I'm of the strong belief that the crypto rails will lead to more freedom, more prosperity, and that's why we are excited to do that, to build on that.
Got it. Jacob, I mean, just a general observation, while speaking to a lot of, the OGs in crypto is traditionally, Bitcoin hasn't been that sort of, DeFi friendly blockchain, or, there has not been enough, products compared to the other, sort of ecosystems, when it, comes to it. What were the fundamental, core, I would say, technical plus operational challenges you faced or currently are facing, while building this, Bitcoin bank?
Yeah, that was a great question. Again, historically, Bitcoin has optimized for being as simple, as decentralized as possible, and that leads to, on a technical sense, to trade-offs in terms of transaction speed and throughput and finality. So on Bitcoin, you really only get finality with 6 blocks, which is, you don't even know how long it's going to take, but at least an hour. Usually it can take a lot longer than that. And Bitcoin is very limited in expressibility on the scripting language that it uses. So you can't really build smart contract. You can't really build financial primitives on Bitcoin L1 because you don't have the fast finality. And so those are the main challenges as a developer on Bitcoin. Our system is a mixture between CeFi and DeFi. That's how you can think of it. We use a lot of CeFi technology where we trade on centralized exchanges, and we issue tokens on Bitcoin that represent those positions. The real breakthroughs that enable a lot of what we're building are the Ordinals network that was released in 2023 by Casey Rodamore, that allows to create fungible and non-fungible tokens. First non-fungible, now fungible tokens as well on top of Bitcoin with what is called a meta protocol. And then the BitVM paper that came out last year that really spurred the innovation around Bitcoin L2s and Bitcoin rollups. A lot of this is still in progress, and meaning it's still research, is still being built out. There's a lot of very capable teams that are building Bitcoin L2s now. And that will introduce and is introducing the ability to have full smart contract layers with finality and expressive smart contract languages that settle into Bitcoin, that essentially inherit Bitcoin security, but enhances it with all the bells and whistles that you see on Solana or Ethereum. So those technological innovations are happening. They're not easy on Bitcoin because Bitcoin is so limited, but they're happening pretty quickly now, and there's really capable teams building them out. And so we're right now on Bitcoin L1 with the Runes protocol, which is Casey Rodamore's protocol for fungible tokens on Bitcoin, but then also are on Stacks, which is one of the leading Bitcoin L2s, where we issued our token and our product as well. And there's a lot of other ones that are coming online and will be there as well, to offer our products to folks on the many layers that Bitcoin will have.
Got it. Jacob, one other interesting conversation which you fairly mentioned is about credits, right, on chain. It's again, sort of a new sort of a territory, which I think in Web2 world, majority of it, the volume and everything is being driven, by all these, sort of credit markets and stuff. What are your views on, whole on the getting this on-chain credit on Bitcoin? And what do you realistically feel, when can we see those applications, going into the mainstream, people actively using it, these things? There are fundamentally many challenges, for it to see it, but would love to, hear your views.
Yeah, you mean money markets and borrowing
Yeah.
against Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Yeah, borrowing against Bitcoin obviously is a massive use case. It's already a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's only expanding because obviously folks want to utilize the value that is locked into Bitcoin now, over $2 trillion. And we are seeing some very interesting experimentation and projects being built in that world on Bitcoin L1, mainly Liquidium. They're one of the biggest lending markets on Bitcoin L1. They use a technology called DLCs, discrete log contracts, which is one of the primitives that you can actually have. It's like a very simple smart contract on Bitcoin L1. And they're actually launching the ability to borrow against your Bitcoin on other chains as well. And so I think that this is a massive use case that's getting unlocked right now that is super interesting. Also, obviously, for our stablecoin and our products to be part of, because Bitcoin is only going to go up in value. I think we all understand that now. And so capturing some of that liquidity, even without selling your Bitcoin, is a massive use case. And that is really a credit market is the foundational primitive for a lot of other financial instruments and transactions that need to be built. So on L1, I think it's becoming possible now, but I think it really will become explosive growth when a lot of the other L2s are coming online, where you can do that smart contract related issuing of credit.
Amazing. Hopefully we'll see, a lot of user friendly, sort of things, and we see more adoption, coming on this on-chain credit markets, specifically in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Uh, Jacob, coming on to the, Hermetica part of it, you've explained us, what you guys do and, what sort of underlying, thing goes behind it. Could you also share some brief numbers on, say, probably when you started, and, what does those exciting numbers look like on today's date? And the second part of this question would be, in terms of the long-term narrative, in terms of, say, probably next 5 years, where do you think, Hermetica fits in, that sort of puzzle in this entire, DeFi and Bitcoin kind of a space? And what would numbers, ideally look like, given your sort of experience?
Yeah. Yeah, those are very good questions. So to start with the last question, in terms of where does our product fit in, we really have two main products right now. One is a stablecoin, and one is a yield-bearing token. That's how you can think of it. And if you look at the stablecoin side, stablecoins are the number one primitive or use case for blockchain technologies today, aside from Bitcoin, I would say. I think it's over $200 billion in stablecoin liquidity today, and it's been growing year over year. I think over 100% over the last 5 years. So it's really a massive trend. Folks really want stablecoins, and they want them for many different reasons. In the emerging markets, they're mainly being adopted as a dollar bank account, so a replacement for your bank account. You can just hold stablecoins. And they're also seeing huge adoption in DeFi. So in order to transact and do borrow lend, do swapping, do perp transactions and other financial instruments, you need stablecoin liquidity. And as we're building out the Bitcoin DeFi ecosystem, we need stablecoin liquidity there. It's a essential building block for that ecosystem. So that's what we want to provide. We think Bitcoin DeFi needs a stablecoin that is Bitcoin backed, and that's what we're here to provide. And the other element, our yield-bearing stablecoin, that yield-bearing element, is a lot of folks use stablecoins essentially as their checking account, The other really important element that folks need is a savings account, right? They want to have the ability to put money away and earn some yield on it, and then use that later on to maybe spend or create a nest egg. And so our yield-bearing element is a Bitcoin-backed savings account. That's how you can think of it, where you can, if you have some USDH, you have some stablecoin, you want to start earning money on it, you can stake it and you start earning around 15, 16%. That's what the numbers have been since we launched. And this is organic yield. This is not token incentives. This is yield from funding rates. This is market activity that we're capturing and passing on to our users. So those two elements, those two building blocks, the stablecoin and the yield token, in our opinion, are really important parts of an ecosystem and a financial landscape on top of Bitcoin. Now, in terms of numbers, the Bitcoin ecosystem is growing. It's still quite nascent. We have around 4,000 users. We have around $6 million in TVL today. And we're seeing, very interestingly, a lot of like organic traction, a lot of organic folks coming, staking, and interacting with our protocol, which is great to see. Obviously, the numbers for a fully fledged Bitcoin DeFi ecosystem will be hopefully a lot bigger, like in the tens of billions in terms of whole DeFi ecosystem, and then we see a clear path to scale our products to 100 million plus in the coming years as we really pick up the build out of the ecosystem.
Makes sense. Thanks for sharing on to the numbers and what does the future looks like. Coming on to a very interesting question, Jacob, and I think a lot of even my friends ask this whenever any company shows the yield is in some attractive number which traditionally banks or any other instruments are not able to provide. There's always this risk element coming in. Now, can you walk us through, how at backend, how these various extreme case scenarios you guys have pointed, and what are the strategies to safeguard the the user's capital, and how can rest of the other people be sure that hey, if I'm lending my money on Hermetica for some yield, it's absolutely 100% safe.
Yeah, absolutely, great question. So in order to access this yield and the liquidity, we need to tap into centralized exchanges. Most of our team is ex-Kraken. We really understand well how centralized exchanges work, what the risks are. And so the way that we have set up the protocol is really with risk in mind first, risk mitigation. We use institutional grade custodians, mainly Copper and Seifu. These custodians allow us to hold Bitcoin in institutional grade MPC wallets that are used by tens of billions of dollars and the largest institutions in crypto. And they allow us to then take the crypto and use it on exchanges without actually exposing them to exchanges. This is called off-exchange settlement, where you can take crypto, you can delegate it to the exchange. The exchange makes it available as margin so you can trade, but they're not on the balance sheet of the exchange. So if the exchange goes bankrupt, our coins are not part of any bankruptcy claims, because obviously we have seen that in the past. So that is one major way that we mitigate risk with our counterparties, which are the exchanges. The other element, obviously, is that we're trading on all major derivatives exchanges. So we're not dependent on one single one. If one of them has problems, we can easily go and shift to another one. And we're currently on 4 major exchanges: Bybit, BitGet, OKX, and Binance. Really, the only exposure we have to exchanges is our unrealized P&L, which in most cases is a negative P&L because we short and the price goes up. So we actually don't have any counterparty exposure to exchanges that way. Those are the main mitigation elements that we have. Our backend systems are designed to manage the risk very proactively. We saw really the worst case scenario play out around, was it 2 or 3 months ago now? We saw Bybit getting hacked for, I think it was $1.3 billion, the biggest hack in crypto history. Bybit is one of our exchange partners. We didn't have any exposure to Bybit because our P&L was negative. But within hours, we were able, our systems undelegated from the exchange and reduced all exposure to Bybit within hours. And so that is the worst case scenario playing out, if you want. And even in that case, there was no material effect, or really no effect to our users.
Amazing. It's soothing to hear. I think the team, which is coming from a financial and crypto background, and you guys have sorted, all sort of extreme case scenarios and actually stress tested, few of these strategies to ensure, the users, money is safeguarded, and ultimately, they can enjoy all the yields, which are very, very really impressive at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our most important focus is on reducing the risk. Also, the strategy that we're running doesn't include any discretionary decision making. It's a very simple strategy. We're just 1x short the market. We're not timing the market. We're not making decisions. It's a tried and true trade in the crypto ecosystem that we have perfected and reduced risk as much as possible across all the different dimensions that we have.
Makes sense. Jacob, coming on to the part I think which a lot of the founders love to hear is about the fundraising story. Given the conditions of our crypto markets, I think there are generally a lot of waves, I would say, right? There's a AI wave, there's a Bitcoin wave, there's L2 wave, which everyone is, gone through. Now, if I remember correctly, I think post ordinals, I think there was a huge uproar in the industry where we saw tons of startups moving towards building on it, and now I would not say it has died, but it has definitely reduced to an extent of that part. You coming from a Web3 background, you working in Kraken, I think you would have seen this obviously all through this journey. So walk us through how was your strategy at those times on how actually you were going to fundraise. And the B part of the question is, does it really matter how to time your fundraising, or is there any secret sauce that you'd like to share with founders specifically who are dealing with these sectors sort of thing?
Yeah, no, fantastic question. I think it absolutely matters, timing in fundraising. I think that obviously the timing is important, but you don't know when the window opens or when it closes, because that is dictated largely by the market and by the conditions and interest. So our approach was very simple. One is build a very solid foundation team and product, because that will always be the important part that you raise on. And then second, and this is something that I think a lot of folks miss, is you have to build the relationships and conversations before the window opens. So there's a really cool book called Fundraising by Ryan Breslow. I think it's like a 60, 70 page book. I highly recommend that to any aspiring founder or founder. Ryan Breslow built a company called Bold and raised, I think, over $1 billion. So he's very familiar with the fundraising process. And his approach, and this is something that I've taken on myself, is you want to build your network and what he calls champions as quickly as possible and as natural as possible. Meaning you actually want to create real relationship, surprise, surprise. And you need to do that over time before you fundraise. And then when you have those relationships and the interest in the market is there and the window opens, fundraising then is not really that difficult, because they're already warm, they're already interested, they already know you, they're already confident in your product and your abilities to produce results. And so that is what I would recommend. I also think that it's generally quite dangerous to jump on to the hot topic just because it's hot and try to raise in it, because you want to actually be able to execute against your vision. So you have to believe in your vision, and you have to be you have to actually build something, not just raise money. That is the most important foundation for everything. Because we saw a lot of fundraising happening. We raised $2.5 million last year, our seed round. We saw a lot of fundraising happening. I was also an angel in some rounds and some other products, but a lot of them have not shipped yet. We actually shipped our product while we were fundraising, which is, I think, a really good way to do it, because you're showing that you're actually in the market already and the product is there, and then investors see that there's momentum and you're building on it. Because it's dangerous to raise money and then not actually even be able to ship a product. So there's caution. Just raising money should be the tip of the cherry on top if you can actually build the product. But yeah, there's some nuggets there. Check out Ryan Breslow.
Awesome. I'm going to tweet about this book and the quote that you mentioned, because I think it's important to have the right set of direction, right? Instead of just procrastinating or just living in some false sort of world, it's actually good to go test out the hypothesis and build on these baby steps to ensure you get over there. And I completely agree with your point. Is product is important. I mean, the first step is to have a working thing, have a lot of passion around it, and then I think funding will eventually fall into place.
Yeah, raw execution matters. Like funding is the secondary element.
Amazing. Jacob, coming to the last part, I think you walked us through the entire journey of Hermetica, yours journey, and also the vision, where this could stand to. Considering this sort of regulation markets which we are currently seeing, considering the Bitcoin price which has really been upwards in the last a year or so, and all the positive sentiment around it, what do you feel 2025 looks like for Hermetica? What are your guys top priority focuses? And if there are any contributors who'd like to contribute to Hermetica, what are the key couple of areas that you feel you guys are open to have conversation for these people?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I think 2025 is going to be, and is already, extremely exciting. I think we're at the beginning of a major second leg up and another upswing in the market, which is always great for the industry. For Hermetica, that means more of the same. We're going to continue shipping product. We're improving everything around the product. We're launching 2 new ecosystems. So any Bitcoin L2 that is out there that wants to talk to us, very happy. We want to be where Bitcoiners are, where Bitcoiners want to transact. We want to have our products. We are adding other elements to the yield. We're actually using our infrastructure to process liquidations of money markets. So any Bitcoin-backed loans, in order to scale Bitcoin-backed loans, you need to be able to process liquidations very efficiently. Our infrastructure is able to do it because we're essentially have the ability to provide a lot of, basically take Bitcoin into our protocol and short it and provide dollar liquidity that way. So we're perfectly set up to liquidate Bitcoin-backed loans. So any Bitcoin-backed loan company, money market out there that wants to scale their product with liquidations, please reach out. We're very interested to talk to you as well. And then we're thinking about other yield products. We're thinking about a dollar that USDH that potentially can have a Bitcoin yield instead of a dollar yield, and how we can build that out and bring that to L1. And then it's really about bringing our product to more people, increasing our TVL, and making it more accessible to folks. So that is a huge push going into the second half of the year here.
Got it. Looks like an amazing roadmap, and we're all waiting to see sort of Hermetica's success, and probably more people, more retail users get to know about you guys, try it, use it, and enjoy these crazy yields that are coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the main users for us. If you're out there, you want to have a Bitcoin-backed dollar yield, you can come to Hermetica FI and check us out. You can onboard with your USDC or USDT and get USDH and enjoy the yield and see for yourself.
Amazing. Thanks, Jacob. It was lovely, chatting with you and getting to know about your background, Hermetica's journey, and the future roadmaps. And I'm pretty sure, a lot of these founders who are building in Bitcoin space would definitely have some inspiration from this, and probably will see some success stories, coming in, upcoming time. We wish Hermetica the best wishes, and hopefully you guys have more TVL, more users, more USDH sort of holders and more liquidity around. Thanks for
Thanks so
joining.
much, Pratik. Yeah, it was a pleasure.